Guys, so this is Sports Card Man. I've actually started doing these on my Instagram page, which you can follow at Sports Card Man. I think I have about 1,100 followers. I've had the account for about a year. Helped out a lot of people with recommending who to buy throughout the year. It was like use the hashtag BOTD, which is buy of the day. I do those pretty regularly, but I wanted to step it up and kind of do something else, something different, a little bit more like extensive. So what I wanted to come up with was researching the Bowman Chrome Auto um, market during the off season because right now is the best time to buy baseball. Particularly, people start buying it in like middle October, late October, and that's kind of when stuff goes for cheap, depending, especially if players aren't even in the postseason, just because a lot of people aren't thinking to buy people for next year. Um, so what I wanted to come up with was just to point out, which Bowman Chrome autos of each team you should be buying and why. And kind of what I do is sort of like a compare and contrast scenario. So you can kind of just say like, okay, like Aaron Judge, is he undervalued or is he overvalued or is he trending up? And by creating these graphs, it just kind of allows you to really find the value in like who you should be buying, like especially comparing like um, a PSA 9 or a BGS 9 or an ungraded versus what a 9.5 sells for or what a PSA 10 sells for. And the reason being is because sometimes like you can find some really great value, especially because lots of times a PSA 10 sells for higher versus a 9.5. Usually, almost the majority of the time, it's about depending on the card, it's 250, 400. It just really all depends on the year, the player, and the card. So what I did here, I'm gonna just get like kind of right into it. I did each team here on the left. I did the card, the year, the player. I did what tier they're in, which means like over here, like if it's based on like the tier value, like of which player the player is in, based on what their highest card sells for. And this is all just base stuff right now. This is only Bowman Chrome autos that I focused on. This is not refractors, is not colors. It's just strictly base Bowman Chrome autos. So tier one is 1K plus. Tier two is 500 to 90 or 500 to 999. Tier three is 250 to 499. Tier four is 100 to 249. Tier five is 50 to 100, and tier six is a dollar to 50. And like I said, they're in that tier basically if their card, one of their the most valuable card sells for a certain amount of money. So, like for example, Judge right now, his most valuable card is the PSA 10, which sells for about $820. So that's why he's in tier two, which I have marked right here. So what I'm going to do is just kind of point out like which players I like for each team throughout the whole off season. So any free agents I'm not going to be doing. So like guys like Garrett Cole, I won't be doing on the Astros since he hasn't signed yet. But I'm going to do a separate page for specifically guys that got traded or free agents, but I'm just strictly going to go on team by team basis. So then I have a key here. Undervalued is yellow, overvalued is red, and trending up is orange. So anyone that I have marked in yellow, I think is undervalued, and I think it's a good buy. So I'm just going to kind of go individually each card and talk about player, what I like about them, what I don't like about them, how confident I am in buying them, and then why I came up with these future outcomes and what color confidence means. So the first card is Aaron Judge, 2013 Bowman Chrome Auto. It's a card right now that is very obtainable, especially because at the start of last year, like similar to like March, April, when he was hitting like really well, his stuff was really high. I myself even paid around 930 for a PSA 10, and I believe it or not, they actually went up to around like 1500. And in the same thing with BGS 95s, they reached around 900 to also 1,000. So I would definitely recommend buying both of those. And the same thing with the ungraded, they're around 430. So and if you want to check my numbers, like you can, but just like as an example, like with the judge, you can just see like right here, like this gives you like an idea. Um, so you see the PSA 9 right here just sold for 430. A lot of those are refractors, so just refrain from like searching those. You see like a BGS 9, 95 did 500, and also with the 95s, I'm not gonna use like any true gem values, just because sometimes true gems do sell typically 500 to, or not 500, 50 to $250 more, depending on the card. Usually it's about 50 on average to like 75, because most of this stuff is newer stuff. So I would say that's probably the difference. So I'm just going to use mostly mini gems when I'm talking 9.5s. So my future outcomes on the judge is, I would say, the Bowman Chrome, in a 9, or like ungraded, or like a PSA 9, or like a BGS 9. I'm predicting them to be around 600. Um, BGS 9.5s, I would say closer to 750, and the PSA 10 I think is going to go up to 1200 again. So if you can get them for these comps, like definitely be confident, because Judge is like still an elite player. I mean, he still hit close to 30 homers last year, even before he had the oblique injury. So that's a good, 45 home run pace. Like, I know the ball was juiced and things like that. Everyone's numbers were higher, but I still think he has a lot of upside on the Yankees, and he's one of the most popular players in baseball, and I would definitely be confident in paying on all three of these prices of what you can get them for. You might even be able to get them cheaper. I just showed you a BGS 9.5 for 500. That might have been just because the auto is on the back. So a lot of people don't usually like buying those, just because they prefer to have the auto on the front. So maybe that's why that one sold for 500. But yeah, use those comps to your advantage, and I definitely am going to be buying some Judge stuff soon myself. And like I said, I already have the PSA 10 in my collection, so I would definitely recommend buying them. On to the next guy is Gleyber Torres, which is the Bowman Chrome 2015 auto, which right now it's pretty expensive. They sell around 300 ungraded. BGS 95 is a little over 400, and PSA 10 is about 1,000. So I mean, Torres does have some room to go up still. And he probably is going to be the shortstop for the Yankees. My prediction, I don't think Didi is going to be back. Just because the Yankees are going to probably use that money on another starting pitcher. So I don't think they're going to sign Didi, and LeMahieu most likely will shift to second base. So I think Torres right now is going to go up to around 400. His 9.5 probably hit around 550, and PSA 10 is probably closer to 1250. And I forgot to mention color confidence. I definitely would buy colors like refractors, or even higher with Judge and Torres if you can afford it. Just because both of those players are pretty much like the I would say the two best Yankees, like in terms of collectability, popularity, age, being like the face of the Yankees. I know LeMahieu was probably the MVP of the Yankees last year, but I still think Judge and Torres are the most collectible in terms of like what I just said, popularity and like performance and age, and being so that these are the two guys that you want to get, if you're especially if you're going to buy Yankees. On to the next guy is Gary Sanchez, 2010 Bowman Chrome auto. And he is right now $80. Like, you might even be able to get him for 60. It just depends. But this is an ungraded version, like a PSA 9 or like a BGS 9. And with that card, you have to be really careful because it is condition sensitive. A lot of the surfaces are usually really scratched. A lot of those are off-centered as well. So you want to pay attention to centering on that card, as well as, you know, surface, especially don't buy one that has a lot of scratches. Don't buy one that's like really off center that looks like 60-40 centering, because then you're looking at best case scenario like an 8.5 like condition wise or something like that if you were to buy it ungraded. His stuff is a lot more expensive in the 9.5 and PSA 10s just because that card is really hard to get in those grades. I do think it does. He does have some upside to still go up. I mean, he had a monster first half last year before he got hurt, and he is still only about 27 years old. Maybe I think 27 or 26. I would guess 27. But right now, I think he can go back up to 125 if you can get them right at like 60 to as high as like 80 would be like my top. And I'm projecting them about 125, and I still think the 9.5 can go back up to 500. And my guess, the PSA 10 would probably be around like 7, maybe even 800. And if sometimes it might pay off to like get a refractor of Sanchez or something, you might be able to get one for like $125, which that easily could hit a $200 card as well. So I definitely would be confident in buying the colors of him. And I should say he is in tier 3. Torres is in tier 1, and Judge is in tier 2. But I'm not going to really say that too much because you guys can kind of see it right there. So that's just to kind of say like, okay, like this guy is in this tier and this guy is in this tier. You can kind of just compare it and say like, okay, why is this guy in this tier versus this guy being in that tier? That's the whole purpose of the tiers. That's another way for you to find the value and say like, okay, there's no reason why this guy should be higher than this guy or why this guy is lower than this guy. That's just another way for people to find more value in why you should be buying a certain person. The next guy is DJ LeMahieu, who I actually have as overvalued right now. You can get him in the 2010 Bowman Chrome Auto. They're about $60 right now, and a lot of them are sitting there not selling. And I created this probably about 2 weeks ago, and I'm just re-uploading it, and I've seen them already come down to 45, and I had them hitting as low as 40 as my original prediction. So that was kind of spot on. So anyone that paid 60, you might have to kind of compensate that a little bit into something else, or maybe it'll go back up come the once the season starts. But I don't see LeMahieu repeating the year he had, only because like that was an insane year. I mean, 100 RBIs. He didn't even. You honestly cannot play any better than he did. But I'm not saying I don't like him. I'm just saying it's going to be really hard to replicate that year. So I kind of do still would buy him, but it wouldn't be at like the 60 range. It would be like um, 30s or like 35, or try to get them a little under at 40. Maybe someone is willing to sell them a little under eBay or something like that. And I don't think there's great upside for him in a base. Like you kind of had to buy him last year when he was like really cheap before like the season started. So he's not a guy I'm really targeting this year, just because I think there is some upside there with him being on the Yankees, but I'm not like superly like excited to buy him type of thing. Like I just don't see it being like a card that you're going to be able to profit on a lot, or and he is only under control through this year too. So like the Yankees may or may not re-sign him to a longer deal. So who knows? Like once he leaves the Yankees, like his value could go down, or the Yankees could even re-sign him to like a 3 or 4 year extension after the 2020 season, or even before that during this offseason. But I do have some predictions on him. I think like a PSA 10 of him, same thing. It's similar to that Sanchez here. If you can get one, like I think they're going to be around 350. So if you can get one, let's say like 200, that's like a no-brainer. Or because a 9.5 is 150, so you'd have to assume you'd have to pay like 2 to 250 for a PSA 10 of him. But I think it's probably a 350 card. Um, I wouldn't buy the colors on him just because kind of like what I just said, like as far as, you want to be a little cautious with him, and you don't know if the same excitement is going to be there for him, even though he did hit that big home run in the ALCS against the Astros. I'm looking at it from like an age standpoint and like in terms of people wanting to like resell and like who people are going to be into this year. So I'm not saying I don't like him. I love him on the Yankees. He was a great player, and I'm just looking at it from like a resell standpoint or if he's going to hold his value this season. Another guy that right now is a really good buy low is Miguel Andujar from the 2013 Bowman Chrome Auto. You can get them for around $45. And at the start of the season last year, they were easily going $70, $80, coming off his rookie year before he got hurt. I have them projected as $65, just because I do think his bat is legit. Like, and I think ultimately he's going to be like the everyday like DH, or they might even play him at first a lot or third base in like a pinch. But they have said that it's Urshela's job to lose at third base, so that doesn't necessarily mean that Andujar is not going to play. But at 45, I think you have to almost buy them just because there is still a lot of upside there, and he is really young, and I think he easily can like still produce offensively for the Yankees, and being in such a big market, like it'll only help him too. So a PSA 10 of that card is really tough too. And you want to be careful when you do buy Andujar's card because a lot of his autos run off the card. Me personally, I would avoid buying all the autos of him that run off the card. I've seen that value be affected easily, like $50 to like $100. So definitely look out for that, and that's something you want to keep an eye on if you do invest in Andujar. I wouldn't buy a color of him just because like I said, there is some risk there because you don't know how he's going to respond right away from the shoulder surgery or if he's going to be like fully healthy. But just at 45, that would probably be the one I would want of him. Or maybe if you want to sit on the PSA 10 of him and hope it goes up to like 3 or 350, as I have noted here. But yeah, just I do like him though still, but there is some cautious. 2000. The next guy is the Stanton auto, 2008 Bowman Chrome auto Stanton. Right now, you can get them for like they've actually come down already, and I already had them at 285. Like I said, I made this about 2 weeks ago when I initially launched my first video on Instagram. They are around 230, like maybe even low 200s already. And I had them coming down to like 250. So they're actually they're probably at like 200 already. So the thing with Stanton is there's not much like upside for him to go up unless he gets real hot, sort of how he did in like I believe it was 2017 with like the Marlins. So you have to kind of like get him really cheap in order to be able to like make a profit on him, or maybe you have to kind of like really study it when someone like blows out a 9.5 or like a PSA 10 or something like that. I projected the PSA 10 of him at like 650. That might be a little high. Maybe even like 600, I would say. But like maybe you'll get a 10 of him for like 450 or something like that in a PSA 10. That would be like what I would want to target, or something along those lines. Like, because even 415 for a 9.5 of him is kind of strong. Because I have them valued at probably like 450 as like going up. Maybe it'll be a $500 card, but he'd have to get like real hot. And he just did turn 30, so there is some caution there, and he's always hurt. So that's the thing with him. He's kind of like a risky buy, but I mean he is probably a future Hall of Famer. He already has 300 career homers, and he is only 30 years old, but he does have to try to stay healthy at the Yankees. So just look out for those things. And I would buy a color of him, and the thing with his auto is a lot of them are streaky. So you want to get like a clean and crisp auto of that card. Like you don't want to buy one that's going to be like a 9 auto because, like I said, that's going to affect the value. Moving on, the next guy is Gio Urshela from 2015 Bowman Chrome. I have them a little overvalued. They're around like 30. I've seen them, some of them go 35. Just I like Urshela. I just not sure if like the following year he's kind of similar to like LeMahieu a little bit, just because like it was his first year on the Yankees, so like a lot of people were excited that he was like a new face type of thing, and like that's what was making people want to buy him. I actually got like $5-6 a piece for some of his updates, and I originally bought them for like 25 cents a piece or like 50 cents a piece because like nobody knew like who he was when I bought them. So I bought those in like bulk, and I'll never get $5 or $6 a piece for those again. It's probably like a dollar or $2 card right now. Um, so the thing with Urshela is, he is good and he puts up numbers, but he is almost in his late 20s already. He's like 20, I think he's like 28 already. So, but he is the Yankees' everyday third baseman, so he does have some value, and a lot of Yankees fans do like him. But my take is that I'm not sure if he's going to sell consistently enough where people are going to want to buy him. So that's why I kind of have him in red as like kind of like a guy that unless you can get him kind of like a guy like to avoid like not to go like too crazy for, only because like you're not sure if like what he's going to do this year or like if he's like most people are saying he is real, but I would not go too crazy with him. Maybe buy like one or two if you can get him for like cheaper, like 20 or 25 is what I would be comfortable and want to pay. So just be cautious with him. Probably one of my favorite buys on here, other than the Judge and Torres that I pointed out, is the Clint Frazier auto. They have actually already come up to around 20 to 25 since I initially made this. So what that's telling me is that the Yankees have either like a plan for Frazier, like a lot of playing time next year, or he might even get traded to another team and become like an everyday player for that team because he's a guy that was frustrated last year when he got sent down to the minors. So I think that at $16 a piece, like or at $25 a piece, like even still, I still think there's room for that to go up. Just because he has a lot of talent and he played well last year, and his stuff was really high when the Yankees had all those injuries. Especially to a lot of their outfielders, like when Stanton was out, when Judge was out, and Frazier stuff was really high. I actually sold a 9.5 of him like for well over like 125 initially last year, and as you can see they have come way back down 45 for 9.5 and PSA 10 I have highlighted at 47. If you can get a PSA 10 of him for around even like 50 or 55, I think that's a no-brainer. Just because anytime you can buy a PSA 10 similar to what a 9.5 is worth, you pay the price for the PSA 10 all day just because the PSA 10 has a lot more upside, and it's a lot tougher to get 10s on Bowman Chrome stuff, especially autographs. So definitely out of the Frazier stuff, I like the 10 the most, and I have them projected to go up to like 90, and that might even be like 125, even if he becomes like a regular player with the Yankees. I mean, who knows? They could make Gardner the main role player again, and give Frazier the everyday left field job, and that means Stanton would be like the everyday DH. And there's still even a spot in center field with Aaron Hicks out in center, so who knows? Or he's out half the year, I should say. So who knows? Like Gardner could play center, and Frazier could play left. So it's kind of like a guy that people are forgetting about, or who knows? The Yankees might trade him too. I mean, we're only in early mid-November, so there hasn't been any real big impactful trades that have happened yet. So that definitely could happen soon. I wouldn't buy the colors of him just because of, like I said, he could get traded. So you don't know who it's going to be to, but that could hurt his value or that could help his value depending on who he goes to. But I think being on the Yankees does help his value the most. I'm not going to spend too many time on the remainder of these hitters. Tyler Wade, Aaron Hicks, Ellsbury, Greg Bird. All four guys kind of have real limited upside. Hicks is out half the year. Greg Bird might get non-tendered. I didn't even do any numbers on him, but I saw like a refractor of him sold for like $12 in a PSA 9. So they've come way down. Wade's going to be like a utility player, and Ellsbury's only signed for one more year. And, who knows? Maybe he plays this year finally on the Yankees, or maybe the Yankees ultimately move him. Like I'm not really sure. Like it's, but I don't think there's any upside on him to buying his card anymore. Um, so a couple pitchers on the Yankees that I did was, and some of their prospects, as you can see, is Severino's Bowman Chrome Auto you can get for $35. Those are really undervalued right now just because they did hit around like 55 when he was fully healthy in 2018, and I think they'll replicate that again. I mean, there's other prospect pitchers right now like Michael Kopech, who's actually selling for $35 right now, and I rather would buy Severino than Michael Kopech just because Kopech's not going to be up till like June or maybe even like July, I would say. And I rather by Severino just because he's more proven and he's going to be pitching right away, and you're going to see immediacy with that being able to increase as long as he gets off to a hot start. And he got off to a really hot start in 2018, so I think he easily could do that in 2020. And last year, like I said, he was injured almost the majority of the year, so like he's one of the guys that like people kind of have forgotten about. So I think he's very obtainable all off season at like the 35 price. And I think those will go up to 55 and look for him in a 10 too if you want to take a chance. But I rather buy, as I pointed out, I would rather go the ungraded one if I was going to buy him. Here's a guy that's interesting is Domingo Herman. He had a domestic violence issue like in the middle of September, and people are speculating they don't know what's going to happen, and it's still being investigated. No one really knows in the Yankees, and the GM Brian Cashman said he can't comment on it yet. So my guess is it's going to lead to like a 25 game suspension, similar to like what Chapman got a couple years ago, and his stuff is really obtainable right now, Herman. So if you want to take a chance with him and say like, okay, they're only $10. I mean, so why not? I mean, they were $30 or $40 last year when he was pitching really well, and I was even eyeing a gold refractor of him that was on for like 150 or best offer, but I was like, I don't know. Like it sounds there is a lot of risk there for even though it would be like it probably sold for like 125 would be my guess, maybe 130. But that card was over a $400 card in August when he was pitching well. So that just shows you that he's come down a lot because of what happened with him. So sometimes like you have to buy low though like that. It just because the player could easily get another chance to come back and do well, and the Yankees might give him a chance, and he's a guy that I would be buying at $10 a piece though, and I would be getting his colors as I noted too. James Paxton, he is a free agent after this year. He pitched well with the Yankees. There's a little bit of upside there, but not much. I mean, they've come down to like $16 a piece. When he initially was traded to the Yankees, similar last year, a little over a year ago, they were around like 30 when he first got traded, and like people were going crazy. But he is already like, I believe he's already either 31 or 32. So I'm not sure if like how much they can go up from 16. I have him at 25. I would buy the colors of him just because you might be able to get one cheap, and then if he starts out well, you can definitely easily resell that at the start of the year. So definitely keep an eye on that as well. Um, Moving on to Chapman, he's from the 2010 Bowman Chrome Auto again, and as I noted, that year a lot of the cards are condition sensitive, and it has a low pop on being 10s available. So if you can get a PSA 10 for 30, I would pay for that like all day. If someone wants to sell me one for 30, like I'll buy that like right now. Chapman's going to be a future Hall of Famer, and he just signed for another year with the Yankees on top of already the 2 years that he still had remaining. So he's still going to be with the Yankees for another 3 years through 2022. And definitely I would get his colors as well too, just because no one's been inducted in the Hall of Fame yet really that's had a Bowman Chrome autograph. So it's hard to kind of say like, okay, what's the future of Bowman Chrome autos after a player's like done after their career is over. There hasn't really been one yet. So I think you can start buying Chapman as like a possible future Hall of Famer and a guy that people are always going to talk about. So that's just something to look for. Loizica, I'm not in love with. I mean, they had him pitching out of the bullpen. I don't really think he's going to make an impact in the rotation next year. They're going to add some pitching, the Yankees for sure. So he's a guy that's I don't think I would buy him right now, like just for that reason. Like you're not sure like where they project him if he's a bullpen guy yet or whatever. But definitely don't buy him right now. Moving on to Devi Garcia, he's the Yankees' number one prospect, and there has been some trade speculation on him. But I think only Cashman is going to trade him if they're like blown, if they get like a star, like so definitely look out for him to have a real impact next year, especially if there's an injury, especially if he gets in the rotation next year. And he was already named the Yankees' number one prospect right now. So anytime you can get a player's number one prospect for only like $35 in a Bowman Chrome, that's a really good buy. Especially because that card was around $90 to $100 upon when it first released in like middle of August. So only a couple months later, it's down to like $35. I mean, that is easily going to go back up to like $60, as I pointed out here. So it's definitely a card that you definitely want to target at 60, or I mean at 35, and it's even a good real bulk candidate as well. And I would definitely buy colors of Garcia too, just because he's got a future to be like with the Yankees for a while. They actually are gonna supposedly lose Tanaka after this year and possibly Paxton. So this is one of the reasons why Cashman's trying to push to sign like a starting pitcher. And I think they definitely are going to take a look at Devi Garcia at some point this year. Two other prospects I have are Albert Abreu and Michael King. They're kind of cheap. I think Abreu's been in talk for trade talks, and King the Yankees like, but they're like okay buys. They're not great because you don't know. Like I said, he's kind of similar to like Loizica. You don't really know his future type of thing. So I wouldn't probably buy those guys just for that reason. Like you don't know what the outcome's going to be. But yeah, that's pretty much it on the Yankees. I'm gonna do this with every team, like I said. So if they don't have a Bowman Chrome auto, obviously I'm not going to be like talking about the player. But if you guys just want to leave me comments on who you like that I pointed out, what you agreed with, what you didn't agree with, I'm always like up for everyone's opinion on seeing like what they thought of my opinion or having expressed their own opinions on things I pointed out. Even try to just learn from this. Just say like, okay, I learned a lot from this. Just how to like compare and contrast and things like that, and just how to find the value and who is better to buy in a 10 versus ungraded, or why I should buy a 10 versus a 9.5. These are the things that you want to look for, and kind of say to yourself, like, where is the value in this? Who has the best value? Like, and as I pointed out, I like Frazier, Judge, Torres, probably in my top three, and then probably the Debbie Garcia or the Severino. Those would be my first buy that I would buy. Um, but yeah, I'm gonna do actually the Red Sox next. I actually did them last week, so those should actually be up to date. These prices were from a couple of weeks ago, so if someone wants to inform me and say, this is actually going for this now, I'll be more than happy to look at that. Another quick thing I wanted to point out though in this video is my sports card book, which I pointed out the compare and contrast scenario and how to find value. And my book is right here. You can buy this on Amazon. Just type in Sports Card Man, a whole new ball game, and it's only $10. And it's really informative for any new collector, or even an experienced collector, or someone that wants to buy and resell. It has everything to do with sports cards. So I'm actually gonna talk about more about that book in a separate video, but I just wanted to point that out quick. That way, people can get an idea of what some of the things I did in the book, and one of them was the compare and contrast um, thing that I just showed you here with how to find value. That was one of my strategies. Um, I don't think anyone in the past has done that where they have compared and contrast value like this. So this really allows buyers or collectors to find really good value and how to properly research the market. So, like I said, I hope everyone on the YouTube following can follow me at Instagram on at SportsCardMan, and I'm going to be doing more videos consistently. But yeah, look out for my next video on the Red Sox, and like I said, I'm going to do all 30 teams throughout the off season. But I'll talk to you guys soon. Thank you. Bye.